Black Lives Matter does something, I don't know how to say it, conservative? The Biden administration knows how to fix the border, but that's not stopping things from falling apart. And Bill Gates has an interview he may not have wanted to have. This is Gene. You're listening to Dumbasses Talking Politics. Hey, this is Gene. Welcome back to Dumbasses Talking Politics. Oh my gosh. I love when the left eats itself. It's going to always happen. It's always going to happen. So last week, there was I talked about this. No, I didn't talk about this at all, actually. Last week, there was a restaurant named Carmine's in New York. Now, Mayor Bill de Blasio put into effect a vaccine passport policy. One cannot go into a restaurant or a theater or some sort of stadium without proof of vaccine. With that proof of vaccine requires an ID, which, by the way, I heard was racist. But, hey, that's why we can't have IDs when we vote, because it's racist. So, apparently, 3 black men and 3 black women came to that Carmine's restaurant, and none but 3 had a vaccine card. 2 of the men had a vaccine card, but they didn't have ID on them because blacks can't get IDs, so it's racist. It also could be the sports shorts that they were wearing past their buttocks that didn't allow them to carry a wallet, but that goes on another way. Anyway, they were asked to leave the restaurant eventually because they were allowed in at first. Then when everyone, all 6 people didn't approve that they were vaccinated, they left the restaurant, and the 3 black women decided to beat the living crap out of one of the hostesses. The 3 women were arrested, and they were charged with criminal mischief. They didn't serve any time in jail because that's not illegal. Criminality is not illegal in New York. So they were basically given tickets. Yep, they were literally given tickets and told to come away. Well, the women had said when they were interviewed that the hostess had called them the N-word. The woman there was Asian. She wasn't white. So back the frick off of my race. Of course, the owner and the hostess said it wasn't true. There were no witnesses who said that happened. The owner released a video that showed that the women just turned and beat the crap out of this gal, who, by the way, was a lot smaller than the 3 women who were beating the crap. I mean, a lot smaller than the woman they beat the crap out of. Of course, the criminal's attorney said that the video was heavily edited. It was all crap. We all know it was all crap. The restaurant Carmine's released a statement. And, good for that owner. And this is an owner that's appeared on Fox News and said this whole vaccine passport thing is crap. He said this, quote, "Last week's violence against our staff had nothing to do with race, despite a Texas criminal defense lawyer's false assertions to the contrary. 3 female guests in the party who had shown proof of vaccine and were welcome into the restaurant without issue, then launched an entirely unprovoked, brutal attack on one of our hosts, one of whom continues to suffer a concussion." Okay, so let's see if we get this clear here. They were actually allowed into the restaurant. Now, two of the male patrons of this restaurant had vaccine cards. They just didn't have any ID, and one guy didn't have a vaccine card at all. Okay, so in other words, they were being prevented based off the law there. Well, Black Lives Matter decided to hold a protest, something close to a riot. We can't ignore that, in front of the restaurant. Shavonna Newsom. Shavonna. What? An organizer of the Black Lives Matter of Greater New York led a protest on Monday at Carmine's restaurant after the hostess, quote, denied, end quote, entry for the black women, which wasn't true. The black women were allowed to enter the restaurant, but the reality is the black women were kicked out when they started arguing that their male counterparts did not have the proper identification for COVID. And by the way, if you don't see the irony in that 2 of the 3 black men actually did have COVID cards, but they didn't have ID, yet we require ID to go to a restaurant, but we don't require ID to actually vote. You see the problem here. Okay? And the fact that any of the 6 had to prove their vaccination status is, quite frankly, none of the Carmine's restaurant staff's business. But anyway, this is what the Shavona Newsom decided to say. She said 72% of black people in the city ages 18 to 44 are unvaccinated. You know something? Maybe they have reasons for not wanting to be vaccinated. Like, what happened in the past? Can't blame them. Okay, you don't want to get vaccinated, don't get vaccinated. So what is it going to stop the Gestapo? I mean the NYPD. We'll get to that. Because the NYPD here isn't the Gestapo. From rounding up black people, from snatching them off a train, off a bus, we're putting this city on notice that your mandate will not be another racist social distance practice. By the way, she kind of hits it right there that it's the city, but it took her a second to come up with that. Black people are not going to stand by, or you will see another uprising. You know what? Uprising in New York City. F them. That city is a garbage heap. Okay, continuing with her statement. And that is not a threat. That is a promise. The vaccination passport is not a free passport to racism. Here's the thing. I agree with everything she said. She's absolutely correct with what she said. The hostess had nothing to do with this. She was following the law. The police have nothing to do with this, and this is where BLM is wrong. They only enforce the law. BLM should go after communist Bill de Blasio. He's the one that created the law. He created the policy. Why aren't they protesting in front of his place? So we can tell those idiots from BLM don't know who to be mad at. They don't. They have no idea. But this is a good start. Because here's the reality. The left will eat its own. Eventually, Antifa is going to do the same thing. It's some Democrat's going to say something that Antifa doesn't agree with. And guess what? Antifa will start rioting. And I personally want to see BLM riot in New York because Bill de Blasio's pro-vaccine mandate is asinine. It's segregation. And considering 32 to 37% of blacks are vaccinated, who do you think is going to get effed from this vaccine mandate? Okay, well, I thought that was a fun story. I liked it. Here's another one. Oh, remember on Wednesday we talked about the Border Patrol and horses supposedly whipping Haitian migrants that were illegally crossing the border, which, by the way, is illegal and against the law? I said to look at the video, and one could see that the riders were just using the reins of their horses to change the direction of horses, which, by the way, horses do get skittish when lots of people are running at them, and so the horses do kind of do weird things. I told you I knew this because I used to ride horses, Western style, and I did learn a lot of the techniques. One of the reasons I want to live in South Dakota is not only because it's a non-estate tax place or anything like that, it's because I want to buy a lot of property and I want to own horses because I like horses. I don't like cows, but I do like chickens. I want chickens too, so I can make chickens. Probably going to own a cow or two, like that chick from that Tornado movie who had the cows and used to cut them up and serve steak. I like that whole farmer thing. Okay, I used to clean deer, so I digress. The Democratic rep from that district in Texas said the Border Patrol doesn't carry whips or lassos and have not been known to beat people who illegally cross. That probably because he's from Texas and he's rode a horse before. No, that's the reins, and they're trying to control the horses. Then the Biden administration relieved the Border Patrol officers of. Then the Biden administration relieved those Border Patrol officers to desk duty pending an investigation. Of course, they didn't say anything about the 15,000 illegal aliens that were in Del Rio where this whole thing actually occurred. Well, the Biden administration got the clue. They listened to the media and they condemned the Border Patrol. And they did what is absolutely necessary to solve this border crisis: banned horses. Jen Psaki said, quote, I can also convey to you that the DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas has conveyed as civil rights leaders earlier this morning, and we no longer are going to be using horses in Del Rio. By the way, in Del Rio, it's an extremely rough territory. Yeah, you're not getting any vehicles there. You can only use horses. So in other words, they're basically saying, we're going to let these people walk in and do whatever they want. DHS Secretary, Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said, quote, I was horrified by what I saw. I'm going to let an investigation run its course. In other words, this was bad, which is really good for my administration, and we're going to let the investigation run its course means that we're just going to let this seem to go on until 6 months later they come up with some rulings on the investigation. Hopefully the public's forgotten about it. That's essentially what that is. But the pictures that I observed, this is what he says, the pictures that I observed troubled me profoundly. That defies all the values we seek and instill in our people. Except they were pictures. There was no video. The video that was released didn't show anyone whipping anybody. It just showed the cowboys, the Border Patrol, actually controlling the horses. That's all it showed. I didn't see. I've got them here. I'm looking at it. I didn't see anyone hitting anybody. As a matter of fact, one guy they accused of whipping a migrant was actually controlling the horse, and he was grabbing a migrant's shirt. Which says to me, if you're whipping the crap out of this migrant, you're probably not grabbing the migrant. Even the moron Maxine Waters, who's been a politician for 40 years and whose district is so bad she doesn't even live in the district, sat there and said, quote, what we witnessed takes us back hundreds of years. What we witnessed was worse than what we witnessed in slavery. Cowboys with their reins. Again, whipping black people. Okay. Here's a newsflash. People are trying to break into our country. Wouldn't Maxine Waters think it'd be better to keep people out of this country? Because we have slavery? And we're so terrible to black people? Coming from a representative that has been in politics, been enriched in politics for 40 years. Can you even listen to these people? Well, here's the problem with the narrative. The problem with the narrative is people are saying, okay, I call BS. I almost said the actual word, but I call BS. One patrol officer who refused to be named told Fox News, quote, it will make patrolling extremely difficult along security. This is insane. The agents did nothing wrong. It's reckless, it's irresponsible, it's unconscionable, and this guy has to go. He's talking about Biden. He continues to lie to the American people about the basic pieces of information he should know. He's talking about Mayorkas. He lies about what he doesn't have, why he doesn't have it, and now he's absolutely lost the respect of every single Border Patrol agent under the charge because of what he's done. Here's the reality. This is all about misdirection. That's all it is. It's to create a controversy that ignores the crisis. Ignores the crisis of inflation, ignores the crisis of the stagnant economy, ignores the crisis of oil going up, ignores the crisis of Afghanistan. I'm sure I'm missing something. Okay? This isn't a controversy. Everyone knows this isn't a controversy. And how is removing horses going to fix the problem? Do you know what could have fixed the problem? I'm being wild here. Building a wall? That could have fixed the problem? Because all those people are crossing at a point where there's no wall. Well, the reality is it's not a controversy. All that's going to happen is the Border Patrol are going to say, you know what, F it. We're not doing anything. Obviously, we're going to get vilified every freaking time there's an issue. So we're just not going to help. Which, by the way, has been the criminal policy of every Democratic city in the country. Vilify, demonize the police or any law enforcement until they say F it. And then, when there's murders, like in the street of Chicago, Minnesota, Los Angeles, San Francisco, blame the police again. It's getting old. It's not working. You know what I think the Border Patrol should do here? I think they should actually start complaining that their workplace is hostile. And they should start suing. Don't quit. Take it to court. Take it to HR. Say, listen, I didn't do anything wrong here. Blah, blah, blah. I'm suing the United States government. I think that's what should happen. If some guy farts next to a woman in a private industry, the first thing she does is file a lawsuit. I think that should happen here. Anyway, you know who really knows this whole illegal alien thing has nothing to do with race? The people of Texas. Serial race baiter and reverend, in scare quotes, Al Sharpton decided to go to Texas and scream about how everyone in Texas is racist and trying to make slaves of black people. Because all these Haitians from South American and Central American countries are supposedly being prevented from coming into the country. Well, Texans don't want to hear it. And they basically told him so. Listen to this.
To my left is the former U.S. ambassador to South Africa,
Why are you not being
Patrick Gaspar,
at the border?
and to his
40% of children
right,
that have come in unaccompanied are now missing from the
Jennifer
border.
Jones Austin.
Kids are being
Then
sedated
you
at
have
the U.S.
Reverend
border.
Jamal
Why are you not being a
Bryant
voice for the children?
From Atlanta, Georgia, New Birth Baptist Church, Reverend Freddie Hayes,
Why are you stoking racism where it doesn't
pastor
exist?
of the Friendship
Why are you
West
trying to
Baptist
come and
Church,
Why are you
promote
standing up for
Jonathan
violence?
Jackson, Rainbow
Why are you here advocating for violence?
Rainbow
Why
Push
are you
Coalition.
here advocating for
We
violence?
went for an
Del Rio
hour
is not a racist
and
city.
toured
Del Rio is a loving, caring community.
that we
We don't
feel
want your racism in
is
Texas.
a
Get out of
real
here.
catastrophic
Nobody wants to hear your racist
human
nonsense
disgrace.
in Del Rio.
As
You're a
people
disgrace.
You're a racist.
around
Nobody
this
wants
world
you in
Watch
Texas.
the border
Nobody
patrol
wants
do
you in
things
Texas.
like
Why are you not a voice for the
police
children that have gone
matters
missing
on
at the border?
he
Where are
compelled
you?
us
Yep, that happened. And a lot of those folks weren't white. A lot of them were Mexican Americans. You know what? They don't like it either. Because their people are being threatened. Here's the thing. The racism thing is not being embraced anymore. I told you this before. Race baiters like I don't understand how Al Sharpton is doing any of this anymore. Al Sharpton has effed up every race discussion that he's ever been involved in. People aren't dealing with it anymore. And of course, MSNBC basically called those people racist. And guess what? Those people don't care. They're going to be racist just because they don't like policy. They don't care. People are seeing what's happening. And the irony is Al Sharpton, who's probably who is an elite, and probably took a private plane to Texas, is irrelevant. They don't want to hear what he's got to say. They don't care. They just know what they're going through. They know that their stores are empty. They know that people are stealing from them. They know they are discovering dead bodies. They don't give a damn about what he's got to say. This is going to be the left's undoing. Now, a lot of people say, oh, we're done. We're in a Cold War and blah, blah, blah. I don't think so. I think people have had enough. And I think the left is a very loud minority. But you know what's not getting reported at the southern border? Reality. The New York Post has reported that these peaceful Haitian migrants, they are coming from Haiti, by the way. They're coming from Central and South America, which means they're not really refugees in the United States. They're not asylum seekers in the United States. They already are housed through asylum and refugee status in other countries. Well, they're not that peaceful. In Mexico, Haitians from South and Central America have been breaking through the border in southern Mexico. There's video. One border patrol office in southern Mexico was closed because of Haitian migrant violence. It's on video. Border Patrol in southern Mexico reported to being assaulted. Guess what? That's on video. Pilots in charge of deportation flights in the United States deporting Haitians because they were the worst of the worst are reporting that they've been assaulted, including being bitten. And by the way, none of these people are tested for anything. They're not tested for COVID. Okay, well, you know what? I don't think much about COVID. They're not being tested for AIDS, which is really prevalent in Haiti. But it gets worse. The Biden administration has lost its ambassador to Haiti. Now, I'm glad they lost the ambassador to Haiti. I'm not really happy with why they lost him. But in a letter to Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who the New York Post received, stated, a quote, this is from the New York Post, in a letter to Secretary of State Antony Blinken, first reported by PBS, Daniel Foote, the ambassador, said he was resigning immediately with, quote, deep disappointment and apologies to those seeking crucial changes, end quote, and end quote on that. Foote stated, quote, I will not be associated with the United States' inhumane, counterproductive decision to deport thousands of Haitian refugees and illegal immigrants to Haiti, a country where American officials are confined to secure compounds because of the danger posed by armed gangs in a daily life. Do you know who else is posed threateningly by gangs daily? The United States, Los Angeles, Detroit, San Francisco, Chicago. Oh my God, Chicago. New York. I don't give a damn what those people in Haiti are going through. I'm worrying about what the people here are going through. But he's basically saying, I'm not going to support the Biden administration because they won't import. This is the problem the Biden administration has. Now, hear me out here. Their problem is not going to be with the right, not going to be with conservatives. Their problem is going to be with leftists. Because they want the Biden administration to do exactly, they want the Biden administration to let all these people in. Here's the problem. You might hear some thunder. It's beginning to rain. We've got a thunderstorm here. But here's the problem they have. The Biden administration already knows that allowing everybody in is going to be really bad optics. And it's not going to go with the American public. And the American public still votes for president, still votes for congresspeople, still votes for senators. The other problem they have is if they do let everything in, that the economy is going to die. And they know this. Does that mean they don't want to let these be? Of course they do. Absolutely no question they want to let everyone in. But the other problem they have is that if they don't want to make it that they let everyone in, they want to do it silently. That's why right now, there are reports they're letting everyone in. Now today, the Del Rio border, the bridge, it's been cleared. 15,000 people were under that bridge. It's been absolutely cleared. There is video today from Fox News drones that show that bridge has been cleared. There's nobody there. There are tractors, there are plows there that are destroying everything they set up. Mayorkas was asked today, how many people have been deported? He said 2,000. Peter Doocy, who is a god when it comes to reporting, sat there and said, well, where'd everyone else go? They've been released into the American. They've been given a ticket and told you need to show up, blah, blah, blah. They've been released. So 13,000 people have probably been released. And they're using excuses. They're not giving us any data. They're not telling us anything. Alejandro Mayorkas was in front of Congress, the Senate, and they asked him, how many people are in Del Rio? How many people have been released in the United States? You know what he said? He said, I don't know. I'll get you that information. And that politician sat there and said, why don't you know? That's a basic question that you had to know we were going to ask you. Well, I don't know. I need to give you. They're not going to tell you. They don't want you to know. They really don't want you to know. Okay, in this last story, Bill Gates had a meeting with PBS, had a interview with PBS. And he was asked something very, very uncomfortable. Now, I'm going to play the entire clip. I think it's like 2 minutes. It's kind of long. But it's really kind of telling. Now, let's give you a little heads up on... I have a Windows computer. I love Windows. I think it's one of the greatest inventions in human history. Don't get me wrong. But Bill Gates is kind of a pervert. Bill Gates, he divorced his wife because he was effing his friend. Bill Gates used to have nude parties. By the way, so did Mark Zuckerberg. So this is nothing new with the elite. But he was asked about Jeffrey Epstein in this article. Jeffrey Epstein, who he's had a relationship with for years. I'll say 3 years, but I think it's probably been longer than that. Let's listen to this interview. Listen very carefully.
It was reported at that time that you had a number of meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, who, when you met him 10 years ago, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution from minors. What did you know about him when you were meeting with him, as you've said yourself, in the hopes of raising money?
I had dinners with him. I regret doing that. He had relationships with people he said, would give to global health, which is a interest I have. Not nearly enough philanthropy goes in that direction. Those meetings were a mistake. They didn't result in what he purported, and I cut them off. That goes back a long time ago now. So there's nothing new on that.
It was reported that you continue to meet with him over several years, and that, in other words, a number of meetings. What did you do when you found out about his background?
Well, and I've said I regretted having those dinners, and there's absolutely nothing new on that.
Is there a lesson for you, for anyone else looking at this?
Well, he's dead, so in general, you always have to be careful. I'm very proud of what we've done in philanthropy. Very proud of the work of the foundation. That's what I get up every day and focus on.
No one can say that Bill Gates is a politician, that he knows how to speak. Oh, well, he's dead, so we don't have to worry about it. Now, by the way, that's a big thing. He's dead. That's what he said. Now, Bill Gates is not the political guy I'd want to... Excuse me. Bill Gates is not the political guy I'd want to align with. I mean, Bill Gates basically said... And I know you're going to look this up, and everyone, oh, that's false. That's not true. No, he wrote a book about it. Sorry. Yeah, he wrote a book about it. He said that we have too many people in the world, and we need to cut our world's population by 4 billion people. He did say that. Says it in his books. I mean, well, maybe, I don't know. I didn't read his books. I heard he said it in his books. How about that? Let me qualify that. Maybe I need to cut this part out. I'm not going to cut it out. But the fact of the matter is, Bill Gates doesn't like the population. He thinks we have way too much of a population. And we need to cut our population. This guy, him just simply saying, I don't have to worry about it anymore because Jeffrey Epstein's dead, should tell you something. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself in an impossible way in a jail cell that looked like there was a struggle, where the two people who were supposed to be on suicide watch both fell asleep. Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. End of story. This interview tells me Jeffrey Epstein was murdered, and we already know that Bill Gates, along with Bill Clinton, are perverts enough to really go along with Jeffrey Epstein. Very disturbing interview. Very disturbing interview. Simply because he's just kind of glad he's dead. Because now he feels he doesn't have to answer any questions. Okay, that's it for today. Visit my website at dumbassestalkingpolitics.com. Take a look at the videos I have and the links. I hope you have a great weekend. I might do something tomorrow. There is a Washington Post article I'm just dying to do. So I might do a shorter one tomorrow. This is Gene, and you've listened to Dumbasses Talking Politics.